True Talk, brought to you by TRULAND Equipment. Join us as we explore cutting-edge machinery, groundbreaking technology, and inspirational stories from the field.
From the dedicated efforts of our team members to the triumphs and challenges of our farmers, True Talk brings you along every step of the way.
Whether you're a seasoned agriculturalist or simply curious about the industry, tune in to discover the fascinating intersection of technology, agriculture, and green machines.
True Talk, cultivating true conversations.
So focused over there. Cell phone in one hand and computer on the other hand.
Working hard, what can I say?
Welcome back.
But a big welcome for a first-time guest today. It's going to be joining us, talking about eons of information. Honestly, it's over some of the information is over my head, but
The man, the legend.
the man, the myth, the legend.
Chad Lantz. Who's nervous? He said he's nervous.
I am nervous.
I don't know why.
Chad, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
What do you want to know?
Give me your interview answer if I were to ask you that in an interview.
Never really been interviewed.
What's your name?
And why haven't you been
Serial
interviewed? We'll
rank.
start there.
Why haven't I been interviewed
Because
on the podcast or even for a job?
for anything. Because you worked here for so long. That's what I'm leading to.
You've been here since you've been, is it 18 years or 16 years? 17 years old?
16.
So you probably haven't interviewed for a lot of jobs in your life, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I didn't interview for this one. My mom saw Patty Troxel in the grocery store, and Patty said, "What's your son doing?" And my mom said, "Nothing." And Patty said, "Send him over." And that's kind of how it started.
So what, do you remember what year that was? I can guess. It was probably right around 90,
89.
89. Okay, 1989.
Summer of 1989.
Jordan, were you born yet? Not even close. When were you born? 2000? 98?
No.
You're not supposed to reveal that, are you?
I'm a girl. You can't ask a girl that.
Sorry about that. So you have been here, how many years is that, Chad?
I celebrated my 35th year this year.
That's unbelievable. Fantastic. You know what that deserves? That's amazing. 35 years. So needless to say, this guy's got a lot of wisdom.
Lot of wisdom.
A lot of wisdom. And obviously want to let you speak for yourself, but were brought up through this business through a multitude of jobs, and you learned a lot about all parts of this business.
I did. I've worked in pretty much every department except for accounting. They never would let me write the checks.
Chad, you even had me do your accounting when I came on board.
I did.
But other than that, okay, so give us the rundown of timeline and how you ended up in the Precision Ag department.
Well, when I came into the business back in 1989, you always start at the bottom. So I started operating the what I like to call the business end of a pressure washer and a broom. So washing machinery, sweeping floors, carrying out trash, just anything that they asked me to do. Still being in high school, it was pretty much part-time, except in the summer. But my dad was for today's terminology, a shade tree mechanic at home. So if I wasn't at work, I was out in the shop with him, learning how to do mechanical things. And I have a bit of a mechanical ability, and it didn't take very long for Dick and Dave to recognize that. And then they put me out in a setup shop. So I was putting machinery together, and there's no better job than putting brand new machinery together. It's like real life Legos. It's just fun.
Yeah.
So that wasn't sarcasm. That really was fun.
That really was fun.
That's a starting point for a lot of oncoming technicians too, right? Doing some setup stuff.
It is. And being particular with what you're doing, following directions, being able to read and interpret what somebody else wrote to try and put something together correctly and make it operate the way that the customer thinks it should.
Yeah.
In the field. So
how many years do you think you did that?
I probably worked in the setup shop overall, probably 15 years.
Wow.
But in between that, I worked on the bin crew 2 summers, putting stirrators in, fixing grain bins and whatnot, just wherever they needed me at that time.
Because our company does have a grain bin division.
Right. And
Yeah.
back in that day, there was Troxel Equipment, single store location, Bluffton, Indiana, and that's where it was. I live 4 miles away. And on my 4-wheeler, I could get to work in 3 minutes.
But you guys weren't, at that point, weren't even a John Deere dealership.
No, we were Fort New Holland.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So not only have you worked your way up through the jobs, I'll just say, whatever, you could say totem pole, what have you, but you actually have done it under multiple brands or 2 brands.
Right, but we acquired John Deere dealership in 1991 as far as Troxel Equipment. So the New Holland thing was only a couple years.
Okay.
And we were dual branded there for 4 or 5, where we could sell both green and blue.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, interesting. And the rest is history, right?
The rest is history.
Now we have how many stores? 18
Yeah.
stores? And
So just
Yeah.
a little history lesson, and I won't get into the details of anything, but we were Troxel. You were Troxel a long
Yes.
time ago.
And the first location that we acquired was Burn Hardware. Then the second location was Reed Tractor in Huntington. Third location was McKillop Machinery in Wabash. So for several years there, that was Troxel Equipment. We had 3 main locations, Bluffton, Huntington, and Wabash. Then, of course, I don't know how many years ago it was now, but we merged with Tri-Green Tractor that had locations in Swayze, Logansport, Flora, and Frankfort, and that formed TTG Equipment.
that's where I became your employee at that point.
That's where Josh and I met, and then that's where Jordan was hired.
That was going to be around 2019 probably, in there somewhere, 2018.
Probably.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
of course, then just recently we merged with the Kenfeld Group to form TRULAND.
Wow, that is kind of crazy. You guys were the ones who interviewed me.
Yeah.
Now I get
Yep.
to interview you guys.
Well, yeah. And
Out
you,
the turntables.
so you started out at one store. 2 years, there was a brand change. And then 33 years later, I keep saying 17 or 18. I can't keep track. I want to say it's 17 stores. Do you look back at that and think, man, that's crazy?
I do. I shake my head.
Yeah,
It just doesn't seem like it should be.
It's a lot of change.
it is. Yep. In 35
Change
years.
is inevitable.
Yep. And here
Which
we
is a
sit.
perfect segue into our topic of today. So, Chad, you have a very deep knowledge base and a very niche topic. What is it?
Raising daughters.
Yes. Oh man,
Well, also that.
I wasn't expecting that answer.
Yeah, me either.
So we've kind of glossed over the fact that you worked your way into as technology became part of a technology, GPS, global position, precision farming became part of the John Deere framework. You took that on basically, and
Yeah.
that became your niche.
That's what I was getting at.
But
Yeah.
it was mostly, it wasn't, I don't want anybody to think that I chose. I'm not going to say I chose to take this on. I just happened to be the only person that was working at Troxel Equipment that time that had computer experience.
Interesting.
Because most of the employees, of course, were older than me. And, back in 1987, 86, 87, 88, that's when computers started to infiltrate high schools.
Yeah. The Apple IIes or whatever.
Oregon Trail on an Apple IIe. There's not too many of us that can say we played that.
I did at lunchtime. Yeah.
So I had that experience. So when, even when one of our internal program service advisor came out, I remember Dick walking out with this prototype laptop that had to weigh 50 pounds. And he hands it to me and says, "We got to do this and you're going to do it."
Voluntold.
So you get voluntold because you're the youngest guy out there and the only one that has had any experience. So
You
just
became
kind of went from there.
makeshift computer whiz, right? That's crazy.
Yep. And then
Yeah.
4700 sprayer, 1900 cart came out. They had brown boxes in them. And everybody just kind of looked at me and shrugged their shoulders and walked away. So if we were going to sell them, I had to figure out how to work them
By default.
by default.
Yeah. So that's what started it all, right?
Yep, that's what started it all. So
The kid that had a little bit of computer experience in a DOS-based Apple computer,
yep, right place, right time.
which
That's what I
really,
tell everybody.
looking back, really and truly had very little to do probably with the precision ag, but that was the gateway.
Yeah, and determination. I was determined to learn it. I
Yeah.
really was.
Because you had
So-
an interest in it.
Yeah, and I wanted to, and somebody had to do it, and
Yeah.
it was interesting.
So
to
not
me.
only were you just filling a void, but there was also some interest in it that inspired you to continue on and see this thing through.
Yeah, and it got me out of power wash and combines.
Wow.
Right.
It's a win-win.
I
It's a
mean,
win-win.
you probably saw a sense of job security there too. I mean, somebody's got to be the guy.
Yeah,
And,
it was nice. And then as combines got more and more computerized, I moved over into more of a technician role and chasing electronics and wires through combines and tractors.
And I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, but from the get-go, it was fairly obvious that there was no getting away from this.
Right, John Deere was committed, and it was
Yeah.
going to happen.
And when they're
So-
committed, don't get in their way.
Yes.
So I, one of my favorite things to do here is we have classes come in, high schoolers come in, and we get to talk to them about precision ag. And I always like to go back to that early time and talk about how did we get here? And I say we literally got here when we threw a GPS receiver on a combine, right? And
Yes.
a brown box in a combine and
Yes.
started mapping yield. I mean, to me, that when I go back, and that was all happening when I was maybe pushing towards the end of my time at Purdue, precision ag became a thing. And you literally start out with tracking things via a GPS receiver.
Yes.
Right? That's where it all started, being
That's
able
where
to
it all
track
started.
yourself. Yeah, and position yourself. And then throwing that, talk about that brown box, that first, unit that went into that processor that went into a machine or a combine and was able to collect some information, right? And use along with that GPS and track the machine and drop data points for yield or what have you. And it's fun to kind of go back to that historically and say, this is what started it all. And then you can point to the big hat looking, what was your nickname for that first GPS receiver?
Oh, green eggs and ham.
Green eggs and ham. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite the contraption. Big old orange dome on a green base.
Big flat hat.
Big old flat disc
Yeah.
around it.
Yeah. And we still have some of those sitting around, and it's really fun to show those to the high school or the college kids and kind of progress through, where we are now, where we started. But that was a big deal. That's
or the
what
new
started
employees.
it all. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I still have one of those green eggs and ham receivers sitting in my garage.
And that changed everything. And, there's a lot of interesting things on the horizon as technology has changed and the satellite configurations have changed. But you guys teach this class. It's precision. It's called not precision basics. What's it called? Precision ag fundamentals.
Or foundations.
Foundations.
Precision
Yeah,
ag
sorry.
foundations.
Yeah, foundations. And it's to me that's one of the best things I think our department does because we literally take maybe a new parts group or new salesman or new techs and to kind of just teach them these basics of precision ag, and you kind of go through history of how things started. And I think that's important for people to understand how this technology has changed over the years, because a lot of times when you're talking about young oncoming employees or college kids, all they know is they've had a phone in their hand since basically the day they were born.
Correct. Yeah, these. I don't want to be stereotypical here, but the teenagers and young adults of today don't know what it's like to be without
Right.
this technology.
Right. And they've seen technological changes in themselves, right? Because their phones get better and this happens. And it's fun to go back and say, first of all, tell them that my first ever cell phone was a big bag phone sitting on the seat of my truck.
Yeah, I told Andy, our boss, that the other day, that my first company phone was in a bag.
Yeah.
And
it was probably 97,
yeah.
When I got mine. I mean, I was 20, 23 years old probably when I got my first phone. So, but they see technological technological advances in their phones and video games or what have you, but these are insane, technology advances. We didn't have cell phones yet, to my knowledge, that we've had publicly, that they weren't widespread at the time that you put that first GPS receiver on a combine.
Right.
You probably didn't have a cell phone yet at that time.
Or it was close to the same time. But,
Yeah.
I mean, the John Deere group didn't put a GPS receiver on a combine until the early 90s.
Right. And then you look at how we've progressed since then, and it's fun to talk about that and how these receivers have gotten better, our accuracy has gotten better, and what do you think from what you've seen? Like, what are 2 or 3 of the most biggest changes you've seen since then? That's a kind of a off the cuff question, but
I guess the level of automation that they've come out with. I can remember dealing with the first auto track in a track machine, straight track only, brown box. Now you look at complete turn automation and how simple it is to work with. It's just overall, it's just pretty easy to get one set up. And if you don't quite understand, there's YouTube videos at your fingertips to help you manage that in the field. But 98% of the machines we sell today are capable of it. And that's just an amazing thing, is the automation that's come through.
And you talk about how, again, obviously these systems weren't crazy user friendly when they first came, right? They've got incredibly more simple to use. Things like auto track. When we talk to these kids, I like to talk about these little plateaus that we set. Auto track was this first big plateau, right? Being able for the machine to be able to steer itself. Then you jump into things like section control. That's a pretty new plateau, and these plateaus keep coming. We've talked about Jordan, exact apply, and now all of a sudden we're into some of the autonomous things. Like, these are plateaus, and when we hit that first auto track plateau, I'm sure that was a really, really big deal. Well, now it's become a basic thing, right?
Right, everything has it.
Yeah, it's a basic building block. So it's incredible how that technology changes, and these things that were so innovative and so groundbreaking, they get bumped down, and now they're kind of basic. And then these next cool new things set this new plateau for us. So, it's crazy. And at the time, it was so incredibly groundbreaking.
It was just it's amazing what they've come out with. Like we said earlier, when John Deere puts their mind to something and invests the money, it's going to happen. Yeah. Same thing with autonomy. Just what I've worked with so far has just been mind blowing.
Yeah. Which you've had an opportunity to work with autonomous equipment in and of itself.
Yeah. For the last probably 4 years, I've had at least some involvement with Blue River and John Deere and their autonomous project. And
yep.
Continues to get better and better and simpler.
Yeah.
It's amazing how quick things now, going back again, 30 years ago when we first had AutoTrack, now our window to improve products is pretty tight. Again, autonomy, I know there were a lot of frustrations when the autonomous tractor was first out, but it's amazing how far it's come in 3 or 4 years, right?
Right.
Same thing with, see and spray and those kind of things. Having the ability to improve rapidly on these technologies when they come out is amazing to me, but that's what's making these things work and letting us get them to market, a successful market that much quicker.
Right. And John Deere's done a really good job of speeding that process up, at least within their own internal workings, because it has been, in times past, 15 years ago, it took them a year to make a change, and now we're getting changes every 3 months.
Yep.
And
it's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super exciting. It keeps me in the game.
These platforms, it's hard telling. Yeah, it's hard telling what we're going to be able to do next, but I can't wait to see what that is. Going back to GPS receivers, I think maybe they can be boring for some people to talk about. I'm fascinated about it, because again, it was the first gizmo, whatever you want to call it, component that kicked us into precision ag to begin with. How do you feel those have changed in general over the year, or what's been the changes? Talking about number of satellites and things like that. What has been the key to advancing satellite technology from when you first started dealing with it?
Early on, it was, of course, we were only dealing with one country's GPS constellation. Now, the term GPS is very, we seem to think it's general or generic, but it's actually very specific to the United States constellation. So,
Well, I've always thought it was global positioning systems. That's
right.
Well, it's global, but it's the U.S.'s system.
It's the U.S.'s system that coined the term. So it has now become a term of, I guess, encompassing all countries. But as I was doing research for this, in times past, you learned that the U.S. military is the one who controls the United States GPS system. And they commissioned the development of this system back in 1973. I didn't know that. That's the year I was born.
wow.
And it didn't come into fruition, or at least usable technology, until maybe 1987. Took them that long to develop the technology, to build the satellites, to get them launched, and to build the technology that mirrored it on Earth, to manage it and utilize it. And it was a strictly military type scenario.
Somebody had an amazing vision, didn't they?
They did. And the mathematics behind it is staggering.
Right.
So
I can't even imagine.
I don't understand it. I don't even want to pretend I do. But
I don't want to understand it.
But the reality is, we've, and I'm just hearsay or saying this, common sense thinking, that they obviously that was a military thing for a long time, and it took a while for us to be able to gain access to it in other industries and, in our personal lives as well.
Right. And, I guess during my research, we can thank Ronald Reagan for signing the order that said that the United States citizens would have access.
Now, we were never granted access to the extent, obviously, that the military had, or the accuracy that the military had. True or false?
That is true right out of the gate. There were certain algorithms of error actually induced into the system on purpose, so that civilians who did have access weren't as accurate as the military. Yeah. So if somebody did pirate the signal in another country, back at that time, probably the Soviet Union we're thinking of in Reagan's time frame, they would never be as accurate as the United States.
And so as that moved forward, and you just mentioned the Soviet Union, and we're talking military, so we as farmers, once we got access to technology, John Deere farmers, et cetera, we didn't have the first rights to that. So there's plenty of stories about GPS cutting out at designated times.
Probably the one that comes to my memory, to the forefront of my memory, is Gulf War.
Yep.
I can remember sitting in my office, and give or take 2:00 in the afternoon, the old phone just started ringing off the hook. And this is back when we had, you had the green eggs and ham receiver, and then after that we got what they called the Generation 2 Starfire, which was a taller bubble, but just kind of the same size as the green eggs, but didn't have the disc. And then after that, we had what they called the ITC, Integrated Terrain Compensation. So they were working with the newest receiver we had. It only ran on the United States constellation. I think it was George Bush the First had launched an attack in the Middle East, and of course the military controls the GPS satellites, so they did what they could to group that constellation where they needed it, not necessarily where us in the agriculture community needed it. And we had 2:00 in the afternoon. We didn't have enough satellites in the sky to run auto track, and that right there was the day I learned how many people depend on it.
This was early 90s, 92-ish probably.
Yeah, 92, 93.
Yeah.
And that number is only exponentially increased, I'm sure.
Exponentially. Yeah, because that's when, there was 45 minutes to an hour that auto track wouldn't work at all. And guys had to steer with a big round thing in the front of them.
Right. So we all understand national security. I mean, as much as we love to have this technology, obviously we understand that that's going to be first and foremost. So that was kind of the battle. We kind of got the almost the table scraps, I guess, or just second helpings of available technology at that time.
Correct.
But it's gotten better. So so I assume the military has gotten better along with what we've been able to gain better accuracy and better access as well. But
Right. President Clinton signed an order removing that little piece of inaccuracy they put in. Okay, so he removed that. So now the civilian class had just as much access to just as accurate a signal as the military.
And I think that's crazy because I think that often we forget how much of a play simple things like that, like executive orders from presidents, affect people in the agriculture community. I think that's often overlooked. We look at this as a aviation military order, but how does it affect us here in Indiana and Ohio?
Right. So I'm going to say back in 1995-ish was when the Starfire 3000 came out. And that's a receiver that we currently utilize today. It's
still working. Yeah.
Still works, but the biggest change with the Starfire 3000 was the integration of the GLONASS constellation, which is the Russian satellite constellation.
So it gave us more satellites.
It gave us more satellites.
I can't believe that's been out since 95. That shocks me. So that came pretty quick, and the 3000 came pretty quick in the process.
It's about every 5 years, and I could be wrong on that date, but that's just kind of what I remember. And But I remember when that came out, and so we had, and the Russian constellation wasn't even fully complete because a complete constellation is 24 satellites.
Okay.
And they're traveling around the Earth, what they call a mid-Earth orbit, which is give or take 12,500 miles from sea level, running at about 10,500 mile an hour. So one satellite circles the Earth twice a day. So, that's, I talked about 2 p.m., we had problems. Well, 2 a.m. we had problems too, but guys were just kind enough not to call me.
I bet somebody tried.
Or I was kind enough not to answer the phone.
Right.
But so everything runs on a 12-hour cycle. And once they introduced the Russian constellations, and they may have 6 or 7 satellites total at that time, it eliminated our outages.
So the reality is, again, access to more satellites means better accuracy.
Yes.
And that's the biggest key to, would you say the biggest key, other than just basic technological improvements and software improvements, maybe that was the biggest key to us improving accuracy as we've gone along?
Well, it was part of it. Now the differential correction side of it is a whole nother game because, these satellites are constantly moving and, the theory of relativity, which nobody in this room fully understands, but, it's involving time. GPS satellites are structured on the speed of light and time. So every satellite has a very highly accurate atomic clock built into them, accurate within a billionth of a second. So a nanosecond is what they called it. And so they're constantly broadcasting a time. And your receiver unit on the surface of the Earth is programmed to measure how long it takes that signal to come from the satellite to itself. And thus, using the speed of light calculation, it can figure out how far away it is and use triangulation algorithms to locate itself and convert it to latitude, longitude. But these satellites are moving, so there has to be a conversion because satellites moving away from you, the signal moves slower. Satellites moving towards you, the signal moves faster. That's my version of the theory of relativity. So they have to compensate for that. So you just think of all the satellites your receivers are receiving and all the calculations they're doing. It just becomes mind-numbing. So you start to understand why they're so stinking expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you brought up just kind of described why we need that correction signal or differential correction. And I think there's a lot of technology in that too. We don't want to sweep that under the rug. And that's kind of where we're going to get at today is talking about some of these corrections, because that's where you truly, you can get your position, but when you want to start talking about, within a few inches or within an inch, that's when you start talking about that power of that correction signal. And obviously there's some free sources out there. We've talked about WAAS for several years, which is still used.
Correct.
And which is, what do you know about WAAS?
I know WAAS is government controlled. I know it's give or take 30-inch accuracy at any one time. Could be better, could be worse.
Kind of the poor man's,
it is
correction signal.
It is free, and it's an FAA, Federal Aviation Administration signal. A lot of your airliners use it still. And we still, can use it for mapping processes. Depending on the application or the thing you're trying to accomplish with GPS, depends on how accurate you need it to be.
I've used it for soil testing for a long time.
Right.
I mean,
so soil testing, how accurate does a guy need to be?
Right.
Is 30 inches good enough?
Right.
For some, yes, it's good enough.
And it's bounced. It could be 30 inches one way or another. So,
Right.
it's bouncing around a little bit. But yeah, it's still pretty wide. I would say it's still pretty widely used.
Right,
In a lot of areas.
For a tillage tractor, 30 inches might get you by, but for a planter tractor, probably not.
Right.
You're probably going to want something a little more accurate.
So then we had WAAS, and we had, if I remember right, we had a paid satellite correction.
Correct.
Which we still do, I get it. But that was kind of the next step, right? Was that paid, that more expensive, price tagged?
Right. But now we're relying on individual receiver manufacturers to come up with their own corrections. So, it's like Trimble, they had their own correction. John Deere has their own correction. And the government even has their own Coors type network corrections that you can pay for. So John Deere made their own, and what they called it was Starfire 2.
SF2.
SF2 is when it came out. And that would get you advertised plus or minus 4 inches pass to pass in a 15-minute window.
So very quick pass to pass.
Yeah.
So then we get into the conversation about repeatability, and that's where that comes in with our lower level correction.
Right. So in some applications, 4 inches is still not good enough.
Right.
Yeah.
So then they brought in the RTK. Okay. So you got to think with your broadcasted signals like Starfire 2, those are calculated corrections based on a worldwide average of error. So, what causes error in a satellite? Well, atmospheric conditions. Anything to slow that signal down or distort that signal between when it's broadcast, when it's received, will induce a certain amount of error. So the cloudier the day, the more humid the day, the worse the signal is. So,
that's where you get that that's why you could get it down to 4 inches at that point,
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's where the pass to pass comes in. Because satellites are spinning, the Earth's spinning, everything's moving. So it's just coming down with that 4 inches, planting 4 inches was good enough. But depended on the type of planting you wanted. Lost my train of thought.
Well, I think so. Obviously, we're moving right into RTK, right? You brought it up.
Oh, so. Yeah, RTK. So what RTK did was
let's tell everybody does anybody know what RTK stands for? Jordan, did you look that up? You did.
Anyone?
Didn't you?
No, I had to learn it in college.
Anyone?
Yeah, real time kinematics.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was channeling my Ferris Bueller right there. Yeah. Anyone?
You weren't going to get that answer out of me. It wasn't a thing when I was in college.
Wait, you didn't know that?
No.
Oh, look at this.
I don't care what RTK stands for. I just know that RTK is important, and it's she got me. Like I said, they didn't have that. They didn't have that back when I was in college. It wasn't a thing.
Right.
No.
I remember when it came out. John Deere's.
And when was that?
I remember when. I just don't remember the exact time.
Probably in the early 2000s, perhaps.
Yeah, early to
2005.
Mid 2005, 2000. It was with the Starfire ITC was the first ones we had. But it was a localized correction signal that was broadcast via radio. So what that brought into my world is having to learn how radio signals worked, how antennas worked, how coax worked, how the FCC worked. Things like that, because that was something that the John Deere world had never seen. So we were setting up, in the beginning it was tripods. So you'd put a receiver on a tripod, you would do the base survey so that it knew exactly where it was, and then it would make a calculation of where it was now versus where it knew it was. and then it would broadcast that correction via radio signal to the what they called rover units or the tractors. And out of the gate, we had 900 megahertz radios, and those radios, biggest draw to those radios were you did not have to deal with the FCC as long as you were under 1 watt of broadcast power. And so it was basically free. Anybody could buy a 900 megahertz radio and broadcast signal.
And at that point, were you putting, to run RTK, you had to have that tripod receiver at every field? Is that how it kind of worked, or what?
Or every grouping of fields. The thing about 900 megahertz is it's line of sight, and that is very important. A very low power radio, but you had to be able to see. The rover had to see the base. If there was one tree in the way, you were done. It would block the signal.
It's weird how higher megahertz seems to travel less. It's the same with your Wi-Fi in your house, right? You get the lower megahertz, it would travel a little farther.
Right, and it all had to do with wavelength.
Right.
Because the 900 megahertz, what they always told me, a 900 megahertz signal is about the size of a pine needle on like a Scotch pine tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
3/4 of an inch, where 450 is double that.
Yeah.
So
It's like a golf score.
yeah, they really told us, like, if you had a pine tree would just swallow up 900 megahertz because the little needle would act like an antenna and just suck all that signal in.
Fascinating.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
How widely adopted was that version of RTK?
not very.
Okay.
It was the one or two customers we had would set posts up in fields and survey those posts over time. You know, it took them all summer or all winter to do it. And then they would move their base stations around. And these are the guys that I'm not going to say they were strip tilling or ridge tilling, or they were just extremely particular and really wanted to make sure they were in the same spot as exact as they could get all the time. And that was our first takers, and it was expensive. I mean, there was quite the investment in buying the base receiver plus all the rover receivers.
I get the appeal because we preach accuracy all day, every day. That's like part of our job. I think it's actually in our job description. But it does seem like a pain, especially compared to what we have now. It fascinates me that the sheer amount of customers that appealed to them.
Right. So
with it requiring so much work.
So after RTK started gaining some popularity, we were tasked by John Deere to set up a dealer network. So instead of customers buying these receivers and customers setting up all these reference points, they wanted us as a dealer groups to set up permanent base stations on tall structures and sell this signal to our customer base like the SF2.
Yep. And thus started our RTK base station network.
So that started the RTK base station network
that we have come to know and love today.
Out of the gate, it was still 900 megahertz. So
yeah,
we had to set up, not only did we have to set up base stations, but if you had a customer that was maybe 4 or 5 miles away from your base, but yet had a few fields that were behind a large woods, you had to set up a repeater. And we could do that, but it took a lot of logistics and
a lot more planning.
RTK accuracy is measured at under 1 inch at 12 miles from your base station. So anything over 12 miles will be over 1 inch off. So the farther away you are from your base station, the farther away or the more inaccurate your signal is. And a lot of that is because when, I always like to describe it as if Josh and I were laying on our backs side by side looking up at the sky and describing it to each other, it would be exactly the same. What he saw was what I saw. But if we were 13 miles away, what he saw would vary just a little bit. He may see 2 or 3 satellites that I don't see. And that induction into your auto track accuracy equation would throw you off just a little bit. And there's other things, multipath, shading, things like that. If he's next to a tree, he can't see certain satellites. And if he's next to the hood of a pickup truck or a large grain bin, he might see the same satellite 2 or 3 times. And the algorithms are designed to kick those out. So as he does get to see the same satellite twice, it's out of his equation, but I didn't see it twice. It's still in mine, so that induces more error. Mm-hmm. So setting up your base station was a big deal. You really had to do it correctly to avoid multipath, to avoid shading. And so it was quite challenging, and it was expensive.
Did you do all that yourself or with a little bit of help? I mean, you were kind of a lone man at that point, weren't you?
Right. I was basically the only one in my department at that time.
Most people would probably be stunned at the complexity of all that and what you had to know to make that work.
Right. Well, and even in our area, there's so many trees that we couldn't go the full 12 miles. We cut that in half. We went every 6 on a radius.
Wow.
So that was just because, you just had so many holes in your network.
Right.
Probably the nicest thing John Deere ever did was introduce the 450 radio. It did add a little more complexity and expense to your network because now we're running amplifiers and we can boost our signal to any level that we can get a license for.
But that also, again, that opened up the need to deal with the FCC a little more, I take it.
Yes, we have to have FCC license on every RTK tower we have.
So the complexity it grows.
It grows, yes.
Yeah.
But on the farmer side of it, it took out that line of sight.
Yeah.
So we have a lot better coverage.
We just kind of absorb some of that complexity, which is completely understandable for farmers having one less thing to worry about.
The end users, yeah.
Yeah. And
right.
I mean, we had the facilities to learn about it and maintain that network. But now we're seeing some evolution within that also.
Right. So, back when the 6000 receiver came out, they introduced Starfire 3 correction signal that you could buy. And with the SF3 signal, they introduced a new component to it that was calculated into it, and it was tectonic plate movements. So not only were they calculating the satellite drift, but they were also calculating the landmass drift. And that really improved our reliability of the signal, but also really improved the repeatability. So when Starfire 3 came out, it was advertised as plus or minus 2 inches repeatable for 9 months. Okay? So for 9 months of the year, you didn't have any drift. And it worked.
Tectonic plates make that much difference, really? That caught me off guard. I didn't know that.
I'm no geologist, but I just telling you they're in there, and it seems to have done something.
But that was the step from SF. One of the main steps from SF2 to SF3 was calculating that land. That's a land thing, not a sky thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they included that and tidal. With the way the whole motion of the ocean thing is real, and it affects how the Earth spins.
Right.
That's just crazy to me because when I think of GPS, I do not think of anything that has to do with land or land movements. And also when I think of land, I don't think about the tectonic. We're not on a fault line. I don't really think about the tectonic plate shifting
or the
too
consistency
much.
of it enough to, that's not something that's consistent. You would think it's a consistent change.
Well, maybe not here where we live, but you got to remember that the SF2s and the SF3s are worldwide averages. So there are places, Africa is moving. Australia
we don't only
is
care
moving.
about the Corn Belt?
Yeah, we don't. John Deere doesn't. So, and then, of course, they took in the tidal. So the way the tides work in the ocean and how it affects the spinning of the Earth. And they really narrowed down the accuracy, about half of what SF2 was. And they took away most of the repeatability problems.
So for the person that didn't want to didn't want to go to RTK SF3 at that point was still fantastic for one. You said 9 months, so we could use it at planning and spraying and things like that. I'm gonna put you on a spot. How many towers did you have when you were Troxels at that point before the TTG? And then how many do we have as TTG? And then how many do we have now? Do you know off the top of your head?
We had at Troxel, my first batch was 6 towers.
Okay.
And then as we moved, bought locations,
Yeah.
we were at about 15
Okay.
Troxel. And then we merged with Tri-Green Tractor, and they were also about 15 towers.
Okay.
So at that time, TTG, and then we'd put up a couple towers as TTG, so we were at 33 towers.
Okay.
And then with the merge with Kenfeld Group, now they had expanded their own network and when we're doing their own thing at that time, we basically doubled. We're at 53 towers right now.
Okay. It's a lot of, so everyone's got a receiver and an antenna. That's a lot of hardware sitting out
A
there.
lot of hardware out there.
Yeah. Maintenance and yeah. We have team members that one of their duties is to make sure the RTK systems are up and running.
Yeah, that's my job. And I don't
Big
like
part
to
of your
climb.
job. Right.
And I don't like to climb.
So I think Jordan was getting there in the form of progress here. Here we are in 2024 and 2023-ish. I think maybe this kind of started. Here we have another step.
Right. So with the introduction of the 7000, Starfire 7000 receiver came Starfire RTK, which is a satellite-based RTK accuracy level subscription that offers full repeatability. But right now they've, at least last I heard, they were saying 5 years plus. But the reason they say it's 5 years plus is they've only had it for 5 years.
That's all the information they have.
That's as far back as they can go. So
I think I heard 7, the last number.
Yeah.
So they might be up to 7.
yeah, because that's probably because they've had the Starfire 7000 for 2 years,
So-
commercially available.
So what's the reasoning behind this?
I can't tell you the specific thing they added to Starfire RTK to make it accurate, but what I think it is just the fact that their Starfire 3 signal was that good.
Yeah.
And they didn't realize that it was 24-month or 12-month repeatable and even longer. And so with the addition of Starfire 7000 takes in more satellite constellations than the Starfire 6000 does.
Takes in a bunch.
Takes in 2 more, the Chinese and the Indian. And,
Yeah.
I mean, it's got the capability of tracking 160 some satellites at any one time if they were out there.
Right.
So we've got a tremendous amount of satellites to pull from, and I think that's just really narrowed down our accuracy.
And we can sit here and say 2 years in that they work.
Yeah,
They
so
work
far
really well.
we've been pretty pleased with the
Yeah.
performance.
And there's a unknown, I think that when they first came out, but an unknown benefit to switching to the SF-RTK correction signal that we've experienced a lot of this year, which is solar flares.
Right.
Right. So when we had the solar flare fiasco this fall, you got to think that, solar flares cause a tremendous amount of electromagnetic interference. Right. And that interference came into play between, for the most part, it was between our differential correction broadcasting satellite and our receiver. So my experience with it this fall wasn't the fact that receivers would lose GPS, as they would lose correction signal.
Right.
And especially our radio RTK.
Which is crazy because that's a land-based
Right, that's a land-based thing.
system. Yeah.
And-
But it was the solar flares that were affecting our land-based system.
Yeah, those are the guys that we're calling as my RTK is not working.
Yeah.
I took very few calls about SF1, SF2, SF3, or I didn't take any calls on SF-RTK. In fact, we converted a couple guys to some demo signal that were doing strip till, and they were back up and running within 20 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
So thumbs up.
So thumbs up to SF-RTK.
Yeah. Do you think there's that having a few extra satellites in that receiver made any of that difference or not?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I think that's why you can't get the SF-RTK on any lower levels.
Something before a 7,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing to even with our RTK networks today, so I'm going to venture to say that most of the TRULAND RTK network is running on either Starfire 3000 or Starfire 6000 receivers. Okay, so that's 2 constellations. So you're only getting the RTK accuracy level on those 2 constellations. So if you're actually running radio RTK on a Starfire 7000, it's kicking out all the satellites that aren't RTK accurate. So you're really only getting the GLONASS and the United States constellations.
Right.
So even if we have growers out there with their own base stations and they're running ITC receivers on their base stations, they're only getting the United States. And it doesn't matter if they have a 7,000 or 7,500 or 6,000, they're just getting the accuracy level on those United States satellites.
Because of where their RTK signal's coming from.
Right, because the RTK correction is only as good as the base station receiver can handle.
Yeah.
That's progress, right?
Right.
I think that's huge progress.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I always go back to the cell phone. It's like anything else. I mean, we just find ways to make things better. And so the reality is, I mean, you know, we've got a lot invested in these RTK networks, these land-based RTK networks, and for the betterment of accuracy and the good of our customers, the reality is at some point they're gonna fizzle.
Right. Now you got to think these RTK base stations we have out there are pushing 20 years old.
Right.
We got some that are 25. We've changed, we've replaced the receivers on them 3 times. TTG just did a full replacement in 2020 to all 6,000 receivers. Right before the shortage. So
then we were short a bunch of stock receivers.
Yeah, we were short a bunch of stock
that.
receivers.
Right.
But that gets to be quite expensive with the activations you need and the receiver hardware and some conversion brackets we had to buy. So I get asked the question all the time, are we going to upgrade our network to the 7,000s so we can offer a better, accuracy level to the 7,000 guys? And the answer is probably not.
Yeah, why would we?
Because our usership of our network is trending downward.
Yep.
And we're not going to probably invest the finances and the money to upgrade these. Repair costs are already almost through the roof.
And you've talked about antennas and brackets and things like that, but that doesn't include just the daily maintenance or lightning strikes or things like that. I mean, there's upkeep on top of all that with 60. What did we say? 53, 60.
Well, 53 base stations.
53 base stations.
One of our biggest hurdles right now is finding components.
Yeah.
Because the amplifiers that we currently use, they don't make anymore.
Yep.
So we got to find replacement amplifiers, and
the price tag of those goes up significantly.
Price tag goes up.
Yeah, probably threefold if I remember right.
And it gets to be quite challenging.
Yeah. So the future is different. I guess the future is here, and it's going to be different as we work our way into this SF-RTK. But so far, so good.
So far, it's been pretty decent.
And that's the saving grace here. Is it works. And
right.
It's performed really well so far.
Yep. So performance-wise, it's been really well. Now, guys can argue with me on the business model because every dealer group had their own business model, how they charge for it. Some guys charge per receiver. Some guys charge per farm. Some guys just used it as a service for their customers, and some guys tried to make profit with it. Every dealer group did it in a different way. And as we've merged, we've had to manage that because all three of us kind of did it in a different way.
Right.
Yeah.
But, John Deere's taken the same approach that they have with all their other receivers, and it's a per receiver charge of $1,500
on an annual basis.
on an annual basis. So that is a little bit more expensive than our network right now.
Right.
So some guys, growers, I don't blame them, but they're pumping the brakes a little bit on converting.
Yeah.
And the question's always asked to me, well, when are you going to shut down your network? And
it's a very hot topic.
It's a very hot topic. And
some other dealership groups have announced that there is a hard stop.
Yes.
Right.
And so that's where that conversation and those questions come from.
Yeah.
So we are currently, we are not going to discontinue our network with the hard stop. So our strategy at this point right now is we're watching the usership of each base station. And when that usership drops to 1 or 2 growers per base station, our plans are to approach the grower that the base station's located at and offer him a purchase option of that base station so he can own it himself.
Right.
And then he can just pay us to maintain it as it needs maintained.
Right.
Yep.
Just like any other piece of their equipment.
Yep.
And I mean, again, part of the good thing about this particular podcast, I think educating, I've learned stuff today. You've probably learned some stuff today. And I think a lot of our customers would probably be surprised at how much investment it's taken, how much work it's taken, how many towers we truly have, and the amount of resources it takes to have this network, maintain this network. So it's understandable.
Right.
Again, in the name of progress. I mean, we have progress in every part of our everyday life.
So, yeah, we've had a couple of base stations that we have taken down because, first of all, they had catastrophic failures, and we had redundancy. So the growers that were using that could easily pull off of other base stations.
Right.
So we made the decision to take it down.
Just smart business decision.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's, we've only done it a couple times. And so far it hasn't impacted anybody negatively.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Now the question remains on these big commercial sites. I don't know how that's going to work. We'll have to navigate that whenever the time comes that we have to navigate it. But as of right now, most of our commercial sites are allowing us access to the towers and the ability to use them,
Right.
just because they want to support their customers as well.
But we've also had a few of those here and there that have said, "Hey, we want this out of here," and we're sometimes at the mercy. Yeah, we can put them on some customers' grain facilities and things like that. But yeah, you talk about commercial elevators, radio towers, and things like that. We are at the mercy of the owners.
So on top of, we're talking a lot about our side, and I think that it's important that customers see what base station management looks like from a dealership perspective and everything, understanding everything that goes into it, and everything that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, just to keep a network up and running. But I think also we're talking about subscriptions, and we've talked about how, whatever your personal opinion may be on a subscription model, it does allow for a lower input costs.
Oh, overall, really big time when you start thinking about the infrastructure that this has required.
Yeah.
Right.
For the past 20 years. Yeah. And labor and.
Yeah. And John Deere did change their business model around RTK when the 7000 came out, because you no longer need those expensive unlocks in order to utilize the Starfire RTK signal.
Yep.
And now we're on integrated receivers.
So it's cheaper up front.
Yeah, it's definitely
Significantly cheaper up front. Yeah.
There's no required radios.
Right. Well, that unlock was almost the price of the receiver. It
right. Well, it would exceed the price of the receiver by double.
Yeah.
And then you had to buy the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are definitely a lot lower. And that's not the intent of this podcast to push that sales pitch as much as it's just to explain the system.
I think it's just informative. Yeah.
Yeah. The system. I mean, I think people, again, would be surprised at a lot of the things they would hear about, not only how this has progressed through the years, but just, again, the infrastructure.
Well, yeah. And
taken.
And I mean, Chad already stated this, but just to restate it, the SF-RTK subscription is more expensive than our RTK, base station RTK activation subscription has been in the past. However, you have added benefits with that. And it's not a sales pitch. I mean, we're sitting here saying there's pros and cons to each, and we understand those, but I think that it's important that we call those out and make it aware, and also highlight our future plans, because we do get a lot of questions on that.
Right.
Right. So it is not our intent as an organization to just shut off the network. I do want to make that clear. But we are going to work at winding it down base by base, grower by grower, as the growers upgrade their own technology and start utilizing Starfire RTK. That just gives us the one less user for that network, and we're going to start slowly, ever so slowly, decommissioning some base stations here and there across the network over time,
as circumstances allow us to.
Yeah, as circumstances allow.
Yeah. And again, it's progress, right? To me, that's the word. We've talked about progress this whole podcast from 1989 or 1991 on, and this is definitely a step of progress.
And I'm sure you talked about the plateaus, Josh, earlier. I'm sure that when we came to each of those plateaus, when we first got there, it probably felt a little bit uncomfortable, and this is
Right.
no different.
Yep.
I mean, change is not everybody's best friend or favorite thing to tackle in the world. But for the sake of automation and
Autonomy.
all the advancements that we see coming down the pipeline, this is just a required next step.
And again, I want to make the point that this SF-RTK model and these newer receivers are going to be a cornerstone to total autonomy too.
Correct.
I think it's
Because
important to mention that.
reliability is a big deal. Now, we've been fairly reliable with our RTK network, but it takes one thunderstorm to knock out a base station. And if you have an autonomous tractor running that's not getting rained on and the base station drops out, or your elevator shuts the power off because they burned up a motor on a grain leg and you change it out, what's that tractor going to do? And so it's going to shut down, hopefully. And reliability is a huge thing.
It's going to shut down.
I think we just glossed over that, hopefully.
We're going to take hopefully out of that.
Okay, well, you can cut that out later, but it's going to shut down, so you're going to lose that capability. And as we move forward through this precision agriculture journey, things are getting to the point where we're needing the accuracy to do a lot more things than just drive the machine. So with the combine automation and speed automation that's coming out this year, of course we talked about autonomy, turn automation, boundaries. They need to be accurate and they need to be stable, and we can't afford to lose the reliability and the accuracy of those for the features that we want to use.
Yeah. And we've talked a lot about the 7000s on here. 7500s are technically the first ones that are autonomy ready.
Right.
Correct.
Just
So-
a chip change. Yeah.
But they are a different model, and so we do have to call that out. The 7000 is where we introduced SF-RTK and that new correction signal, but 7500s will be the first autonomy ready.
Yeah, 7500 is a twin brother to the 7000, or twin sister,
Yep.
if you want to say it that way. But there has been a chip change and a software change. So with the new chip comes new software. So they had to label the softwares different. So that's why you got the model difference.
Yep.
So the updates will be a little different, right?
Yeah, correct. And as you see, the 7 in the front dictates the family. The family stayed the same.
Yep.
Yeah. 7000 still a great receiver.
Yeah, 7000 is still an awesome receiver.
Oh, yeah.
But 7500 won't get you anything extra other than autonomy capable.
Yep.
Yep.
Especially for the guys, the 7000s, especially for the guys that don't see a place for autonomy on their farm, or they're not looking to gravitate towards implementing that in the next 5 years.
Right.
A 7000 is a perfect, great receiver. I mean, look at how many 3000s we're still using today that have been out since, what'd you say, the 90s?
Yeah. So we've just noticed, especially in some of the more recent auctions, that the value of the 3000 is starting to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There's a bunch of them out there.
There's a bunch of them out there.
Which is
So-
to be expected. I mean,
Yeah.
a new model got introduced to the marketplace and people are upgrading. And the cost of those 7000s is very reasonable.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Compared to what a 6000 costs, the 7000 is
A base 6000,
yeah,
excluding the RTK unlock.
is basically cheap.
Yeah.
So, to stay up on your receivers is a good thing, and to trade, I'm not going to say trade often, but trade more reasonable than 10, 15 years.
Well, again, I was just thinking about that. Like, we went all the way back 30 years and, we would run things 10, 15, 20 years, but now you're getting to a stage where at 5 years, it's kind of that there's enough rapid improvement and rapid changes in technology that 5 years kind of a mark where you really got to look at what you got and see if it's time to maybe
I mean, I
take
just
another
think
step.
I think this begs the question: how many people are still using a Garmin? Like
right. Not,
it's just
Maybe a fishing boat somewhere.
yeah, but in a vehicle.
Right.
I mean, we have to think about the fact that we're not even having that technology guide us in our vehicles, and yet you want to have it guide your corn planter.
Right.
right. So that you need to keep up on it, and your trade-in values will be good. The newer the trade-in, the more
Yep.
it's worth.
Yeah.
And so to manage your overall costs, you need to be trading this stuff in frequently while
Yep.
there's still buyers for the used. Now, there's definitely good uses for 3000s and tillage tractors and
Yeah.
6000s and tillage tractors and
Right. Even some implement guidance with some 6000s.
Even implement guidance, so you can move
With-
the
with
6 to the
6000.
receiver or 6 to the tool and put a 7 on the tractor.
Yep.
That
But-
shared signal.
Just keep that train rolling, because unlike a tractor, this technology is not a buy it once and be done with it.
Right. Right. And again, we're just changing more rapidly. We're just, what was the old adage? Technology will never. It's as fast as it's ever been, and it's never going to be slower than this.
Correct.
Right. So
And the amount of calls I still get on the call center for brown boxes is baffling.
I was going to say,
It
with
is
that,
baffling.
there's not a lot of compatibility issues either with the 7000s. Well, with the receivers in general. So
Right.
that makes it a little bit more. Now with the 2600 displays, we do see some of that.
Right.
But
So
excluding that, we're not really limited to what equipment. There are some limitations, but not super limited on what we can put this on.
we're also getting. You talk about that. I crack up when you say the brown boxes. We joke about that, and they're still
Chad gets all
functional
the
for some
brown box
guys.
calls.
But you know what? As our staff continues to get younger, their ability to support 30-year-old technology, that's older than a lot of our coworkers.
Right. So, even talking, we're talking 2025 fundamentals class. How far back do we go?
Right.
It's our decision is Gen 4, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
anything older than Gen 4, we're not going to talk about.
Yeah.
So,
You just get into the relevancy question.
yeah. So, there's only 2 of us on our team that were around when the brown box,
Right.
Mark and I, and
Well, I was around, but I sure wasn't working in this industry.
yeah. So,
Right.
we field all the calls on the brown boxes and,
Yeah.
and even some of the computer track monitors, the old 250s and 350s, the younger generation just never seen them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Nope. Chad, you're a heck of a coworker, heck of a resource. One of our favorites, for sure. And
I
wealth of
appreciate
knowledge. The negative side of you having that wealth of knowledge is we bother you all the time because we need to know things, and you're one of the first phone calls we make. So
Yeah. We did just get a call. I got a call this morning, and it was a question that I couldn't answer. And I said, let me just put you on speakerphone. Chad's standing right here.
that comes at a cost, being this knowledgeable. But
Well, whatever I can do to help. But
I think that Chad can definitely get the title of most favorite phone
Yeah.
call. If you're having
one of the
issues.
honestly, one of the most knowledgeable people in this organization.
And how can you not be when you've been in it for so
Right.
long and you're so dedicated, or as
Right.
dedicated as Chad has been his
Right.
entire career?
and I'm so old.
I didn't say
You're
that.
not that old. You're not you're not that much older than me, but we all keep moving up the rung of the ladder. We lost Stephen Dupes retired, and that just bumped all of us up a little bit closer to the old guys in the group.
The median age went down
Yeah.
quite a bit with his,
Yeah,
his
so-
departure. No, this is awesome. And I
Yeah.
think it's much needed. And these are questions that we get all the time. And I think it's very important that we address some of those things. Not to say that our customers that are listening can't still call us. We'd love to hear from them. But this might just address some of the common questions that they haven't asked or haven't had the opportunity to ask. So
And I think it's good for people to understand historically the technology that they have in their hands. When you look back at where GPS has come, I think it helps everybody understand progress, right? Where we started, how all these things have changed, and the constellations and getting new satellites, and it's all in the name of progress.
Yeah,
right?
it's definitely driving forward.
Right.
So
and most importantly, everybody loves Chad. So
Sure. All right, Jordan. Any other parting thoughts?
no.
she's speechless for the first time ever.
Well, and also happy New Year to all our listeners out there as well.
We got all the holidays covered. We
That's
did
right.
Thanksgiving, Christmas,
right.
and now New Year's.
So
So,
Yeah,
Here's-
Happy New Year. Now the question is when do you take down your Christmas lights?
Chad,
Oh, we have to go there again. What if he didn't put any up?
Chad's get taken down the day after Christmas.
Day after Christmas, they're gone.
Okay.
Christmas is over.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said this morning, Christmas does not exist in our household after the 26th.
Yes, it does not.
Man, he's the biggest Scrooge of all of us, isn't he? No.
Well, he's not a Scrooge. He just appreciates the calendar again.
I
This
just
is me.
appreciate the calendar.
I would typically say would be stuff would come down. You have that tree illuminated through New Year's, and maybe New Year's Day is kind of a good takedown.
New Year's Day is my R&R day. So,
Okay. Recovery day.
yeah, staying up till midnight really, really gets to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't wait till you get old.
I'm just going to start doing what you do for your kids and watching the recorded, last year's at 8 p.m.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah. So,
Well, here's to a successful 2025.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Yep.
and lots more podcast episodes.
That's right. That's right.
2025 will be unique as always. So
Yep. Looking forward to it.
Yep.
bring it on.
And with that,
Talk to you next time.